Yes, yes. You must understand that. That's a very good question. I must compliment you for this. Because G20 is a group of nations which control about 85% of the global GDP. Just 20 countries controlling 20% of the GDP, and 65 and above, close to 70% of the commerce and trade, about 60% of the population of the globe. So obviously it's a very important group. And this very important group ends up, it's like talking amongst yourself, because you're all in a certain bracket and you just talk to each other and come up with a policy which is going to impact everyone else, is going to impact the whole world, because these are the people who have the financial wherewithal. But none in the room is speaking the language of rest of the countries. So 20 versus 120. So the voice of 120 odd countries which represent Global South is not reaching this place which is engaging in policy making. So just before G20 started, Prime Minister Mr. Modi had led a South forum in which he had conversation with Global South, all the leaders from Global South, and this group was almost like voiceless group. So India chose to become the voice of the voiceless, to represent their voice, because no policy will succeed until unless the have-ones and have-nots come together. And we represent both. So India is in a right position to engage in conversation with G20 nations, the most the most prosperous nation, and talk about the needs of the not so prosperous nations, but very rich in resources. So the resources need to be handled and managed for all. And people who are in vulnerable class need to be looked after. So debt crisis, to resource management, to human development, to skill development, to logistic management, all these issues from the perspective of Global South need to be discussed. So India was voicing those concerns. So it's for the success of both categories, G20 countries, because we are today the 5th largest economy, so we are part of G20. But we also represent Global South, because we are 1.4 billion people. So we represent Global South as well. So policies which impact lives, livelihoods, people, resources got to be discussed. Climate change, sustainable development, food for all, food security, food, fertilizer, fuel security. So until unless there is a right voice in the room, the discussion becomes talking to yourself or people like you. So to bring the variety, to bring that right nuance in the conversation, India's taken that lead, and thus this G20 becomes very, very relevant, because we've chosen to showcase the leadership of Global South, which gets to be represented by India in that room of elites. So I think in that sense, Prime Minister Modi's leadership becomes all the more important. When we say Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, world is one family, that one family, none can be left behind. Everyone needs to be taken together, taken ahead, so that we all can, speak the same language, work together, live in peace and harmony. So sambadadvam, samgajatvam, samvamananasi janatam. And this richa of Rigved, one of the manuscripts which we have showcased as part of the culture corridor from 4th, 5th century AD is going to be showcased in the culture corridor.